It's time for more Manifesting Original Rich Bitch Experiences. Each week, we're talking travel, wellness, and millennial musings with a level of refinement. What level? It fucking depends. I'm your host, Ava Bilkey. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the More Pod. I'm super excited because today is the third and final travel review that rounds out the California road trip. So, if you've been following along, this road trip started out in LA at the beginning of March. And then from LA, it went south to Laguna Beach. And the third and final stop on this lovely California road trip is Palm Springs. Now, if you've been listening to the More Pod for a while, you will know that I first visited and reviewed Palm Springs last fall. And so this is actually the first travel episode that I'm going to be giving you recommendations for a second time around. And so I figured that could be kind of interesting. And there's something so exciting about visiting a city for the first time. I think that visiting a city for the second time can also be equally as exciting because you have a little bit of the lay of the land. You know, maybe you found a really great hotel that you want to stay at a second time. Maybe there was like something at a restaurant that you've been craving ever since you had it. And visiting a city for a second time gives you the opportunity to revisit those really great experiences. What I've found about Palm Springs is that there are actually so many restaurants and just new establishments popping up all the time. And I think this is because it is definitely a very popular place to visit, not just for people looking for a warm weather getaway, but I also met a lot of people on this trip who actually have like second homes in Palm Springs. They live in LA or they live in San Diego, and they actually drive to Palm Springs for the weekend, which I love that for them. It's very bougie, it's very rich bitch. We fully support that. But I think since there is so much transient traffic, that's probably why Palm Springs gets a lot of new establishments. So I have brand new experiences to share with you. I'm so excited. And let's just get into it. Let's get into it. So, this time, my arrival into Palm Springs happened via vehicle. So, I drove from Laguna Beach over to Palm Springs. And this was about a 2 hour drive. It wasn't bad. It was like a little bit nerve wracking at times, just because you kind of have to cut through the mountains to get there. And if you're like me and you're from the Midwest, like mountains are a very unusual experience. So, the drive was a little like up and down, windy, bumpy, curvy at times. And that was fine. I mean, we made it. We made it. But just a little bit like, ooh, I was kind of low key white knuckling for those 2 hours. But we made it. So I drove over. You could also, if you're just taking air transport, you can fly right into Palm Springs, PSP Airport. But a lot of cities in California can get you there in a couple-hour drive. So you could also fly into LAX, or you could fly into John Wayne, Orange County. And either way, you're just a couple hours from Palm Springs. It's pretty easy to get there. If you have mountain driving experience, it's even easier. Which I now have. The first thing I noticed this time around when I got to Palm Springs was how green everything was. And this is very unusual because Palm Springs is the desert. So the typical landscape is very brown and very sandy and very dusty. It's a big old dust bowl out there in the desert. But it was green this time. And it's due to all of this crazy winter weather that we've been experiencing. So there had been so much snow and then snow melt and rain that it completely changed the mountains from brown to green. And it was beautiful. It actually looked kind of like the hillsides of like Hawaii or even Brazil. It was it was giving lush. And it was really pretty, but it was definitely unusual. I was expecting the dust. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of dust, but that was a nice little change of scenery. The shitty weather has continued throughout this trip. I mean, that is the consistent thread. It actually rained multiple days, like multiple full days during my stay in Palm Springs. So, this review is going to be concentrated around shopping and dining because I've learned that the only thing you can really do in the desert when it rains is shop. Let's talk about shopping in Palm Springs. There is a lot of great vintage shopping in the city. And essentially, I think it happens because, a lot of glamorous people go to die there. It's also nearby LA. So you've got the whole Hollywood scene, the washed ups, the has beens, the retirees, and they have a lot of nice possessions. So you will find a lot of nice vintage pieces in Palm Springs. So I think it's a great place to shop. I went to a place called Market, and this place was new since I'd been there last fall. Market is essentially this huge warehouse, 40,000 square feet of vintage resellers. There are clothing resellers, there are furniture resellers, there are art resellers. So this place is really cool. I saw so many unique pieces of furniture that I wish I could have literally just purchased and put on a plane and had them somehow magically delivered into my living room. The logistics on buying furniture away from home is quite complicated. I haven't worked that one out in my head yet, but there were so many cool pieces that were just very inspiring. And it definitely got me thinking about improvements I'd like to make to my condo, pieces of furniture that I'm ready to swap out. And it really just set the vibe. It was really fun to just see all of the really dope mid century furniture and art for sale. They also had vintage clothing resellers, and I scored an I don't know why I'm singing today. I scored an amazing leather blazer. It is exactly what I've been looking for. It's oversized, but it's fitted at the same time. It's black, it's in perfect condition. It looks like it was made for me. And that is the thrill of thrifting and vintage shopping. It can feel really frustrating to go through so many things, racks full of clothing, store after vendor after vendor after store, just sifting through all of the things. And I think that's what's most prohibitive to thrifting and vintage shopping. Like it does take a level of commitment to the hunt and patience. But when you have those moments where you have that perfect find, like somehow this old leather oversized blazer jacket made its way from wherever it was made to this shop in Palm Springs where I happened to be and try it on and it fit perfectly. That is such an exciting feeling. It's like a rush. And when you have those finds, it makes the whole process worth it, It's like, oh, this kind of paid off. Let's go again. Like, let's roll the dice. And that's what I find so fun and exciting about shopping this way. Also, obviously, it's like much more sustainable than buying new made and fast fashion clothes. So there are lots of benefits, but Market, really dope, scored an amazing blazer. I was a happy camper. I also revisited what I call my favorite vintage shop in Palm Springs, which is Melody Note Vintage. I talked about this spot on the last Palm Springs pod, but what I love about it so much is that the owner curates really great pieces. She's very selective about what she carries, yet somehow she has an incredible collection. And it's very, 70s, 80s, and 90s focused. And everything is highly wearable. 90s is a big hot trend right now. I love 90s vintage because I'm a 90s baby and the looks just kind of resonate with my soul in a way. And so I was super excited to go back here and I snagged another great piece. So I got a, let's see, early 90s pinstriped women's wear dress. It's Donna Karan. And it's so on trend, by the way, because pinstripe is going to be pinstriping this year. And it's so classic and kind of sophisticated, but could also be really dressed down with sneakers. I haven't styled this dress yet, but I was very excited to find it. And I was very excited to be able to revisit this store. Also new since I was there last fall was a shop right down the street from Melody Note, which is called Bustown Modern. And this girl was really cool too. Her shop is, again, beautifully curated. And she carries more, I would call them like occasion pieces. So think like really incredible coats, beautiful dresses, pieces that you would wear for more of like an occasion, an event. But it's all really great quality, very clean, gorgeous, just beautifully wearable, but like special pieces. So it was really fun to look around her shop. And if you want something dressier, that would be a great place to check out. Carrying on the shopping extravaganza, because it rained, like I said, multiple days, I also stopped into Big Bud Press. And I had been here once or twice before. The first time I went into the shop, my friend who I was with thought it was like a weed store because it's called Big Bud. It's not. It's a clothing store. This place is really cool. They make all of their pieces in LA. So it's a lot of very colorful daily pieces. So think like sweatsuits, think jumpsuits, think button ups, just like very classic but very colorful pieces, all really high quality, all made in LA. And this shop is just so fun to go into because everything is color coordinated. And so if you like that, if you're one of those girlies that stacks their books by color, Big Bud Press is the store for you. I got the shirt that I'm wearing. You can't see it, but it's a black and blue tie-dye t-shirt. Just a basic, but like a fun basic. And definitely giving LA vibes. So, the moral of this story is that there's a lot of great shopping to be done in Palm Springs. And if you find yourself in the desert on a rainy day, it's the best activity. On to the dining, which is, of course, my other favorite activity. There are so many places to dine out in Palm Springs because, again, it's one of those places where people go for leisure or for retirement. And what do the leisurely and retired folks do? They go out to eat. I love cities that have a lot of great restaurants. It is one of my favorite pastimes as well. So I was quite surprised actually to find that there was a whole selection of brand new restaurants for me to try between being there in October and being there in March. I have four really great recommendations for you. The first one is a spot called The Heyday, and this is a burger joint. My understanding is it used to be located within one of the hotels there, but they just opened up their own location. And this place, they have like a fairly small menu, but everything is done deliciously. So their signature burger is voted one of the best burgers. And by the way, there's a lot of burgers in Palm Springs. So this is actually a valuable vote. It's called the smashburger. And it's one of those burgers where I don't know if you've ever been to like an old school diner, but it's kind of like they fry it on like a big ol' like a pancake skillet kind of thing. And then the edges of the patty get really like crispy. It's one of those. So it's called the smash burger. It has the beef patty, it has cheese, it has caramelized onions, and it has shredded lettuce, and then their special sauce. And it is so good. It's probably one of the best burgers I've had in many, many months. And I ordered it with a side of fries. They're crinkle cut fries. So, really giving retro vibes. Their restaurant that they opened literally opened like 2 weeks ago. So, I was there on one of the opening days. And the spot is really cute. It's giving like 70s sort of like Spanish vibes, like think exposed wood beams on the ceiling, refurbished like red patent covered booths, really cute retro style environment. They also had a really great curation of wines. These are the type of wines that are really up my alley because they're the unusual wines. They're the ones that are typically in the like organic, biodynamic, think orange wines, think unusual reds. That was their wine list. And all I can say is this owner has taste, you know? So the heyday was delicious. I can't wait to go back. The next place that I went is actually a spot that I could not get into the first time I was in town. It's called Bar Cecil, and it is wildly popular. Bar Cecil is what I describe as a classic, again, American style restaurant, but with really gorgeous interiors and a really great bar program. All of my friends who visit Palm Springs recommend Bar Cecil. To give you an idea of what we're working with here, it's the type of spot where they open up their reservations 30 days in advance, and you actually have to plan 30 days in advance to get a reservation. I did not make a reservation, but they have the opportunity to dine at the bar. But everyone tells me you got to go early. So, Bar Cecil opens at 5 p.m. I arrived at 4:45 and found a line outside the door of people waiting to get into this restaurant. I walked up to the hostess. I asked for a bar seat for one, and she told me that there was exactly one bar seat left for the 5 o'clock seating. How wild is that? People are really getting to this restaurant and half an hour before it opens to get a walk-up seat at the bar. And then at 4:50, it was already full and they're not even open yet. That's kind of wild to me. So obviously I have very high expectations at this point. But the bar experience was lovely. Chatted with a couple of people, was told by a regular that this bar scene is quite friendly on regular basis. So if you're a solo traveler and you're looking for a nice spot to hang, Bar Cecil, but get there early to actually get a bar spot. I had a hard time deciding what to order here. I think just based on being in an indecisive mood, but I ended up having the half chicken, and the half chicken, it was roasted and it came with like green beans and potatoes. It was a very like hearty Americana dinner type vibe. It was very good, and it was quite a lot of food. I actually had leftovers, so I made 2 meals out of it. And then I also ordered the lemon tart for dessert, which in true Palm Springs fashion had a layer of dates incorporated into it because there's dates in everything. They're like the local delicacy is dates. Um, and that was really nice. So the date puree, which was really sweet, actually kind of canceled out some of the tartness of the lemon. And that was a very tasty dessert. This would also be a great place for a craft cocktail. I'm a bit more of a wine drinker, but everyone around me was ordering gorgeous cocktails at the bar. And the citrus garnishes that these bartenders were using, oh my God, they smelled incredible. Like there's almost a perfume or an aroma at the bar just based off of like the grapefruit and the orange peels that they were zesting cocktails with. It was a vibe. Definitely recommend it. You'll have to plan ahead, like I mentioned, but it is a great experience to have. And it seems to be probably one of the most popular places in Palm Springs amongst millennials. So it's a vibe. We like Bar Cecil. Check it out. The next new restaurant that I tried this time around in Palm Springs that I really enjoyed was Mr. Lyon's Steakhouse. And there are a handful of really classic steakhouses in the city. I had had a recommendation for this one specifically for happy hour in the bar. I had actually planned on going to a different restaurant for dinner this night, but in doing a drive by, it looked like they were having like some sort of retirement party. There's just too much white hair happening, so I kept driving. So I'm actually glad that I ended up at Mr. Lyon's. Pulled up and had great service right from the start. They have complimentary valet parking. They were super friendly, super welcoming. Again, I got a spot at the bar. Set the scene. This is more of like a retro inspired, very dark, very moody steakhouse. They have multiple dining rooms and they all have a bit of a different furnishing. But I sat at the bar, had a great experience. They do have a happy hour menu at the bar. This will just, give you a few dollars off what you'd probably order from the regular menu. In true steakhouse fashion, I did order steak for dinner. It was delicious. A filet mignon cooked to my order, and enjoyed a glass of wine for dessert. I actually had a glass of dolce, and that's when I realized that I had been manifesting that since Drake dropped Take Care in 2011. Scallops and glasses of dolce. And that was just a funny moment for me because I think about the process of manifesting sometimes. And a lot of times you can do this without even intentionally knowing. So I've had dolce before, but dolce is a prominent dessert wine that comes out of Napa Valley. And it's really delicious. It's probably one of the only American dessert wines you'd probably see on a menu outside of this country. It's a really sweet treat. And again, I just think about like 2011 Ava hearing about this in a rap song and being like, I love this lyric. Like it's a great line, but somehow like fast forward a lot of years and I am enjoying this wine, It's just something funny about manifesting. even when you don't have a very specific manifestation goal for a thing. I don't know if I'm articulating this well enough, but my point here is that it was just a funny moment of reflection for me when I realized that I was living out the lyrics of a Drake song that I've been singing for like a decade. So that was Mr. Lyons. Met some really fun people at the bar there too. There was a girl that I'd like driven over from LA because it was rainy in LA, and then it was like rainy in Palm Springs. And so again, we couldn't win with the weather, but whatever. Doesn't matter when you're inside in a dark steakhouse drinking Dolce. And I enjoyed it. I would go back to this place too. There are a couple of other steakhouses on my list that I would try before going back to Mr. Lyons, but really great spot. They also have a secret, not so secret speakeasy next door. So if you're into that type of thing, that would be a fun thing to do. On my last night in Palm Springs, I went out to dinner with my friends who I was there visiting. And they took me to what I initially thought looked like a pretty shitty hole in the wall type restaurant. But as we know, looks can be deceiving. So, this kind of dinky, not the cutest restaurant actually had the best cannoli I have ever had. This restaurant is called Il Giardino Italian Restaurant. And it is a husband and wife owned operation. They cook their family members' recipes. It's authentic Italian and it's Sicilian specifically. Everything on the menu looked so good. I had a really hard time picking what I was going to have for dinner this evening, but I ended up ordering the ravioli. And it was so authentic. And what I mean by that is the cheese was not heavy and goopy and artery clogging. Like it was fresh cheese in the ravioli. The pasta was fresh. The sauce was fresh. It was light. It was coated, but it wasn't drenched. And it was just delicious. So I had the ravioli, enjoyed a nice glass of Chianti, and my friends ordered pasta dishes as well. They loved it. They've been bringing like all of their friends who come to visit to this specific restaurant. They're like, you've got to try El Giardino. So it was my turn to try El Giardino. And, I would have been highly satisfied leaving this restaurant just, with the ravioli. It was fantastic. But oh my God, the cannoli. I think it's the first cannoli I've ever had that genuinely had flavor. Like I could taste the pistachio. The filling was flavorful. It wasn't just like some like soupy, mucky cream. Like it was beyond. I've been dreaming about these cannolis ever since. It's very unexpected. Like I said, it's not the cutest restaurant. The vibe's not really there, but the food's incredible. And just know, best cannoli on earth sits inside this very humble, family-owned Italian restaurant in Palm Springs, California. So that concludes the epic shopping and dining experiences enjoyed in Palm Springs. I stayed with friends actually while I was here. So while I don't have firsthand hotel experience, there are a couple of spots on my list that I'll just throw out for you. The first option is called Trixie Motel. And this place has maybe 6 rooms, each one of them equally fucking iconic. Like there is a space themed room, there's a flower power themed room, there's a hearts themed room. I mean, absolutely adorable and truly over the top in a very Palm Springs type of way. Like everything is pink. That would be an experience. And it would be a very unique, original rich bitch experience in Palm Springs if you want to have that like very iconic desert vibe. And this spot is at the top of my list for next time. The other hotel on my list is actually owned by the same boutique hotel group that owns Hotel Joaquin, which I absolutely loved in Laguna Beach. So this place is called Carakia, and this is Moroccan inspired. So a very different vibe, but a lot of the same amenities that Hotel Joaquin has. So think coffee delivery, think yoga class, think iconic boutique relaxation, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous grounds. And again, very different vibe from the Trixie Motel, but equally as beautiful in its own way. So these are the top hotels on my list. Like I said, I stayed with friends. But if I were to book a room today in Palm Springs, it would be Trixie or it'd be the Carakia, hands down. And so I think that concludes our Palm Springs Take 2 review. With every trip, I give it a score from 1 to 10. I would say Palm Springs was an 8 out of 10. Really great. The rain was probably the main detractor here of those other points, but really, really solid stay. Lots of places to shop, lots of places to dine, and on a sunny day, lots of places to lounge poolside and just soak up Mother Nature. Since this is concluding the entire California trip, I think we can also give this a rating. So when I think about my time spent in LA and Laguna Beach and Palm Springs, collectively, it's been an awesome month. I would say it's got to be an 8.5 out of 10. You know, all things considered, so many different trains, so many different vibes, so many different people, places, experiences. That's what's so cool about California is it's literally giant and there are so many different experiences to have in the state of California. And this concludes our California road trip. So where do we go next? Where do we go next? I want to hear your recommendations. If there's a city that you would love to hear about on the More Pod, let me know. Seriously. Send me a message, send me a DM, or comment on one of the travel reels and let me know where you want to hear about next. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate the time you spend with me here every single week. It means the world. And I hope that this travel episode has inspired you to shop or dine or plan a trip or even create a vision board, a manifestation board of some place that you want to go. Because travel truly is one of the greatest gifts, you know, to be able to experience new people, new places, new things, and to be energized and re-inspired is so incredibly valuable. So that's what I really hope you take away from these episodes as a listener is just a little spark of inspiration to do more of your own exploring and just to never stop being curious about all of the things that this world has to offer us. So, with that, thank you so much for listening. See you next week. Listen to the More Pod every Wednesday as I share the things that make me more me and discover a thing or two to make you more you.